Group of black teens commits disgusting act against two murdered cops they found. Here's what happened next. This is how far the United States of America fell under the presidency of the charlatan Barack Hussein Obama. Now we don't even respect the dead. Spokesman Herman Lamar from the Americus Georgia Police Department stated Thursday morning that they have arrested and charged 4 teenage scumbags for vandalizing the grave of Officer Nicholas Smair, who was shot and killed by a thug in the line of duty last year. Lamar added that the police department had made arrests in the case on Wednesday morning after viewing surveillance footage of Smair's grave at the Oak Grove Cemetery. He said that Janine Smair, Officer Smair's mother, had installed a camera to monitor the grave after she had visited and twice found footprints on her son's grave. Herman went on to confirm that they had both arrested and charged 17-year-old Kaim Chambers with criminal trespass for standing, spitting and walking on the grave after midnight. The post scumbag is being held in the Sumter County Jail. In addition, 3 juvenile females were also arrested and charged with curfew violation and criminal trespass. 2 of those females have an additional charge of obstruction of law enforcement. Herman said there are plans to transport 2 of the teens to the Macon Juvenile Facility, and the third was released to a parent since there was no significant damage to the grave that would require monetary repairs. Do these scumbags even have parents? End of watch. Wednesday, December 7, 2016. Police Officer Nicholas Smair and Public Safety Officer Jody Smith, of the Georgia Southwestern State University Department of Public Safety, were shot and killed while responding to a domestic violence incident at a local apartment complex at South Lee Street and Country Club Drive, near the Georgia Southwestern State University. The officers had been notified that the male subject was punching holes in the apartment walls and that he had an active felony warrant. When they arrived on scene, the complainant advised them that the man was still inside of the apartment. Officer Smith went to the rear of the building as Officer Smair announced himself at the front door. As Officer Smair entered the apartment, he observed the male subject entering the apartment from the back door. He ordered the man to come to him, but the man instead fled out of the back door. Officer Smair radioed that the man was fleeing and ran through the apartment. As both officers pursued the man on foot, the subject opened fire on them, striking both officers in the head. Despite his wounds, Officer Smair returned fire but did not strike the suspect. Officer Smair immediately began to perform CPR on Officer Smith until he collapsed from his own wounds. Both officers were transported to Phoebe Sumter Regional Hospital, where Officer Smair was pronounced dead. Officer Smith was flown to a trauma center in Macon, Georgia, where he died the following day. The suspect, Mingle Kennedy, fled the scene but committed suicide next day following a SWAT raid of a local residence. Officer Smair was a U.S. Marine Corps veteran, had served with the Americus Police Department for 1 year and had prior law enforcement experience. Officer Smair and Officer Smith had known each other their entire lives and were best friends. Officer Smair was going to serve as the best man at Officer Smith's wedding in May 2017. I honestly believe this is why nations like Iran have public lashings. Because if there was ever a case in which anyone deserved such a punishment, it would be this one. How can any human being do something like this to a grave? It's sad how things like this never happened before. President Barry Soetoro created this environment of racial divide and hate against our peace officers. What could have truly been a presidency of healing turned out to be one of revenge and hate. Why Blue Lives Matter. Americus, Georgia, 4 teenagers have been arrested in connection with the vandalism of a fallen officer's grave. Surveillance video from cameras that Janice Smair had installed showed the 4 teens standing, spitting, and walking on the grave of her son, Americus police officer Nicholas Smair. She said that she noticed footprints around his grave when she first visited his grave, and she's seen footprints there twice within the past week, according to WSPA. She turned the video footage over to police, and 4 teenagers have been arrested since then. 3 were 3 female juveniles, whose names weren't released, and a 4th teenager, Kaim D. Chambers, age 17. 2 of the females already had previous criminal histories. Smer said that the issue is simply a lack of appreciation for her son's sacrifice. She said, "People need to show respect. Especially for Nick and Jodi. I mean, they died heroes, and to us, they will always be heroes." Hope and change turned into nightmare and despair. But I am sure the free stuff and the historical value was worth it to the brain-dead zombies under the spell of the Democrat Party and their lies. Please share if you agree we should always elect presidents who possess American values and morals. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe Breaking News 365 channel. Goodbye and see you again. Muslim migrant refuses to let cops check his bag, gets harsh lesson in American law. There was a time when immigrants came to America and felt grateful to be in this great country. That they knew that they were in a land of opportunity to make a better life for themselves and their families. These immigrants happily assimilated to American culture and language without batting an eye. Sadly, those days are behind us, and now we have Muslim immigrants entering this country not feeling grateful, but rather entitled. They are under the assumption that they are allowed to usurp our laws and enforce their own. Well, one Muslim migrant thought that he could get away not following police orders, and quickly learned a tough lesson in respect. The founder of Islamic Civic Association on Staten Island, Hesham Al-Milaji, was boarding the Staten Island ferry when he was stopped for a bag check. Instead of Al-Milaji simply obeying the random bag check, this entitled Muslim decided to throw one hell of a temper tantrum. Al-Milaji was eventually arrested for this absurd outburst, but then had the audacity to claim that he was singled out because he was a Muslim. Of course, this makes absolutely no sense considering the political climate we are in today. The NIPT is extremely careful not to racially profile anyone in order to not find themselves sued by some social justice warrior with a camera and a blog. The reason that Al-Milaji was checked was a security checkpoint, and that is all. Al-Milaji is just trying to make it impossible for Muslims to be stopped so that jihadists can carry out mass murder unchecked. You can listen to Al-Milaji whining here. According to Staten Island Advance, a religious and political activist on Staten Island claims he was placed in handcuffs, frisked and issued 2 summonses by NIPT officers based on the way he looks. Hesham Al-Milaji, a Muslim who was born in Egypt, was temporarily detained and searched by police at about 8 a.m. Wednesday at the Staten Island ferry terminal in St. George, after he refused a random bag check. After a search of his backpack, he has issued summonses for trespassing and disorderly conduct and allowed onto the ferry, police said Thursday. Al-Milaji, the founder of the Islamic Civic Association on Staten Island and chairman of the Staten Island Libertarian Party, said he believes the bag check wasn't so random. He took to Facebook hours after the incident, saying he felt singled out because of his Egyptian heritage. "I have no doubt that many people are in fact stopped randomly, but the manner this was done in my particular case made it feel different," said Al-Milaji. He said there were at least 5 people in front of him carrying purses and backpacks when a NIPT officer walked into the crowd, extended his arm and ordered him to a table for a bag search. "I said no thank you," said Al-Milaji. He replied that he's not asking me, but telling me, and I replied again, "No, thank you." A spokeswoman for the NIPT said there are no set guidelines as to which passengers are selected, such as every 5th or 10th person. "There's no science to it," said that Kelly Nord. "It's like flipping a coin." She said Al-Milaji was not personally selected. Many other people had their bags checked during that same time frame. But Al-Milaji argued police were in violation of the 4th Amendment. The amendment protects the right of the people against unreasonable searches and seizures. And no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause. NIPT policy states a passenger is not required to hand over their bag, however, they would have to find an alternate form of transportation. A policy that Al-Milaji said also is a rights violation. "It is an infringement of my right to travel freely without molestation and due process of the law." Random searches of bags in the New York City subways, Commuter railways and on buses were first enacted in 2005, under Mayor Michael Bloomberg, as officials expressed alarm about the latest bomb incidents